Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has introduced his newly established safety plan to neighbourhood watchers and the Delft community.
The plan includes the deployment of over 3,000 safety officers and 150 investigators. Mariska Botha has more.
We're coming to you from the heart of Delft on the Cape Flats, where the Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Winde, is inside the community hall behind the camera, where he's talking to community members, CPF members, neighbourhood watchers of the Greater Delft cluster about his new safety plan that was launched on the 19th of September. That plan includes, among others, 3,000 officers that will be trained by the province to serve in a similar fashion as the Metro Police of the city of Cape Town. They will also employ 150 detectives to do investigative work to bring cases to courts, because the Premier told us last month that something like 3% of all gang-related charges that go to court are successful. Now, this safety plan is, of course, the boldest in history of the country, according to the Premier. It's a 1 billion rand a year plan that will have multiple prongs and that will go into every direction and to every department within the cabinet of the Western Cape. Inside, community members are sharing their concerns and their worries with the premiers, and of course the majority of the people that are here are people who work for the CPFs and the neighbourhood watchers, telling the Premier that unless they get help from the police, that's a complaint we heard a lot throughout today, unless the police works with them, unless there is support from government, they will not be able to succeed to turn the tide on crime so that there is safer communities. And that, of course, is the overarching message that the Premier is bringing. He says he wants to drive economic activity and economic growth, but without communities that are safe, it is simply impossible to do that. So this plan of his, he says he will be held accountable for it. If it is not a success, then he should resign. And of course, it will cost 1 billion rand a year, as I've said, and it is money that will be gathered from different projects within the province of the Western Cape, because the Premier says this is not a compliment that should be done or a plan that should be implemented by a province itself, but he says they cannot wait on national government anymore. They have to implement these plans right now. Among the plans that he shared with the community this afternoon is the outreach programs that will start in schools, where they will identify youth at risk and work with children from the youngest age possible. So the idea is to have boots on the ground, patrolling streets, making communities safer in an active way, but then also working on the value systems that are in communities, because Premier Alan Winde says without core values that come from a young age, communities cannot be changed. And he says there will be boots on the ground, but this is a long-term project, and that's why there needs to be work with children from the youngest age possible to ensure that their values will change societies for the better in future. We're hearing communities complain about how communities are structured when housing is done. They say they hope that this is not empty promises, but the majority of the people in the hall behind you there have welcomed this plan cautiously and saying if they can see real action taking place, they will support the Premier and they will work with the provincial government to make this work.